All right. Yes, that would have been a catastrophe. Last time we also did, well, I forgot to start the recording and we missed the first 15 minutes. All right. Hello, everyone. It's 5 minutes. We're going to start. My name is Sven. I'm talking to the people in-house at the Intellect Learning Hub, as well as those online. Thank you for joining online. It's our May event, and we're excited to have James presenting a main presentation shortly. Just help me there if you don't mind. Okay, when you're done. Okay, just hit page down. We're going to get to the agenda quickly. All right, so there's a quick introduction. Thank you, Nikhil. Quick introduction, and then some comments and some announcements. Then we're going to go straight into James's presentation. After that, Sia, my colleague, wasn't able to join us in person, but he's recorded the news, so I'll play that from my laptop. Then we've got the continued follow-on conversation about Datamarts, continuing from March last session. And then we'll do the Enterprise DNA prize giving. Just on that, please pay attention to James's presentation because it's going to be very interesting, and also because I will pick a question from that presentation to see who wins the prize. Okay, and then there's a closing and pizzas. Pizzas obviously for those in-house. And obviously you'll have to join virtual pizzas. Okay, so just some Zoom etiquette. Please, if you're comfortable, put on your camera. Let's make it informal. Let's be warm and friendly. Put your camera on, but please do mute your audio so that it just makes the echoing a bit easier to cope with. If you have any questions, certainly in-house, just raise your hand and discuss. And it's the same thing, those of you who are online, please just raise your hand, and Nikhil is monitoring, so he'll be able to just pass on your question to those of us who are here. Yeah, in terms of the Zoom name, not the most important anymore because we're doing different ways of doing the prizes, but if you want to just make sure that the name is meaningful instead of, nickname or something like that, at least we know who you are. Okay, excellent. Please obviously stop me if there are any questions. Right, so now I'm showing the year's agenda. Okay, you are here, that little red mark there, 25th of May, that's today. Every odd month, so May is the 5th month, it's an odd month. It therefore means it's a hybrid event, meaning it's both in-house and online. And in those sessions, we always have a topic and a workshop. Okay, so James is doing the topic, and then the workshop is the Datamarts section where we encourage the community to go and practice the workshop topic, and then give feedback. And we started this in March, and we're going to continue that this time around. Okay, so that's what's written on the far right-hand side in the light blue there. It says the odd number things of the topic in the workshop, one main talk, and then the even-numbered ones are all about news flashes, BI flashes, and BI news. Okay, but because we didn't have a session in April because of the public holiday, we're going to do the news now in this session as well, because quite a lot has happened over the months and over the last few days. Okay, so there's a lot going on. I have got two little drawing attention to pieces of text. One is, please invite your friends. If you think anyone would be interested in learning more about BI in general, but most of the time about Power BI, invite your friends, whether that's online from Joburg, Cape Town, Durban, even outside the country. You may as well, assuming you find these events helpful, then please share the word so that we can, share the knowledge with more people. And obviously, if they're in Joburg, please encourage them to come into the venue, certainly on the odd months, which is when we have them. Okay, we've got pizzas and drinks afterwards. We can chat and get to know each other, network, share, all sorts of fun things. Okay. All right, and then the other one is at the bottom there, volunteers for the BI flashes. This is now for the June event. Okay, so we're always looking for volunteers. It's not a scary thing. I think many of you think it is scary. It's not that scary, particularly the BI flashes. Those are the short ones, 5 or 10 minutes, something that you've struggled with, you've solved it, now you want to share it with other people, some cool bit of tech that you've found or seen that you think others might not know about. So just share it, and it's very informal, it's very relaxed. You don't have to be black belt Power BI to do this. Genuinely, Just take a leap of faith and go for it. So please, if there are any people who want to volunteer, just put your name in the chat, send it to us, and we'll be in touch with you. We can even help you if you're a little nervous. It's no problem. Okay. All right, excellent. Let's just see. Have I covered everything? Right, yes. Okay, in which case, I think I'm moving to the main topic now. No, that's announcement. So I'm going to pause that. James, are you ready? Are you going to be up here? Or are you going to be down there?
I'm going to
okay.
Where can I put my screen there and still?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I can move mine. Before you come up, let me just introduce you quickly, or come on up. We're very delighted, in fact, to have James here. Presented for us in November. He had an enormously positive response. James works along with Michael at Cobalt Analytics, a proper expert in data, analytics, Power BI, you name it. So thrilled to have him to present. And today he's talking all about field parameters. So I'm going to hand it over to you, James. And don't forget, this is where the prize questions are coming from. So do pay attention. Right.
Probably need to share.
I might have to enable you. So 1 second. Okay. Participants. Oh, a lot of flickering going on there. James. Make host. Okay, there we go.
How many people have joined online? May I ask?
13.
13.
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you, sir. All right. Let's put that in. It's not big enough to hold my keys. Right. Is that okay? Sure. Am I sharing? Oh, it's me. Look at that. Why is it not sharing? Ah, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is James. Today, I'm going to talk about field parameters. As Sven, there's quite a delay here. Wait. Oh, there's a real delay. Okay. Well, whenever it comes, doesn't matter. Really. Because really, there we go. That's what I wanted to choose. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. I was going to do slides, lots of slides, and I decided I don't have that much time, so we're going to have one slide and then demos. So basically, what are we going to talk about? What are field parameters? Very, very basic, very quick thing. Probably the most important sort of section. What are the benefits of field parameters? Because when we understand what we can do with them, you can think of all the use cases. And then we're going to just explore the two different ways you can use it, whether you use field parameters as dimensions or field parameters on measures. And then we'll just very quickly touch on what you can do outside of what Power BI auto creates. So I'll show you a demo. If you haven't ever seen field parameters, I'll show you what Power BI auto creates. And then towards the end of this, we'll just go, what can you do outside of what Power BI creates, and how can you extend your field parameters and make them useful? And then if anyone has questions or use cases or ideas of things like, hey, would it be possible to do this, or can we do that, or what you know, all those kinds of things, let me know, and we can explore that and try it out. So that is the sum total of slides. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this Power BI report here, which is, and I did a piece of work and something similar to this. It wasn't about board games. I then took the problem and kind of transposed it into one of my favorite data sets. So what we started with was wanted to know details, like what are my top 5 this, what are my top 5 by that, and it was like, what is my top 5 sellers by volume, and what is my top 5 sellers by rand value? Then what is my top 5? I can't tell you the details, but anyway, it doesn't matter. We ended up with a report that had this, particularly this section here. Sorry, I can't show you online, but this section with the 6 bar charts all next to each other, really only showing 3 lines of data, very small, not very useful. And I I didn't like it, and the client was adamant that they wanted to be able to see all of these things on one report. So, various solutions, and eventually we settled on field parameters as a solution for this. And one of the best, or that is one of the biggest benefits of field parameters, is flexibility and the ability to sort of make space or save space. So let's go back a step and ask, what exactly is a field parameter? Well, a field parameter is either a list of columns from one or more tables that can act as that you can act as dimensions, or it's a list of measures from one or more, from your model, wherever they're stored in your model, that can act as measures on your graphs, on your tables, wherever they are. And then you can create either slices, buttons, or whatever to interact with these field parameters and change what's displayed at the time. So the first thing is, let's have a look quickly at how do we create a field parameter. And I kind of have to get rid of this zoom bar so that I can actually see my screen. Okay, what is this? Sorry, I'm not very familiar with Zoom, so please excuse me if I look like a total noob. I was just
Microsoft fanboys.
yeah, it's exactly it. The Microsoft fanboys. Right.
None of us can see that Zoom bar.
Only me, yeah. So it's just messing me up, but it's okay. So if you go to the modeling tab in Power BI, here a little bit across is something that says new parameter. And when you click on new parameter, you get two options, numeric range or fields. So I'm going to choose here fields because we're looking at field parameters. And it'll open this lovely little dot here. And you can see there that on the right-hand side, we have a little selection box of fields that we can add. So as I said, either add a column from a table or you can add a measure. You should probably not add both to the same field parameter. So let's start by adding a couple of columns. So this data set that we were looking at here is about board games. And I have a whole bunch of info about board games here. But the things that people are most often sort of interested in are things like what category, what family of board games, just see what kind of mechanic the board game has, which is basically how do you play it, and then possibly who is the designer. Okay, so now each of these is a column in a different table. You can also see columns from the same table, but in this case, I've got 4 different columns from 4 different tables, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to add those to my parameters. There's a couple of things we can do here, but I'll show you them a little bit later when we go to the beyond what you do in auto create. So let's just go just like that. It's going to keep these 4 fields that I've selected. You can choose, actually, I want to put mechanic at the bottom. You can sort of drag and drop it. If you do all this, you've got this interface once. You can never go back into it. So get it right. I mean, there are ways to fix it, and we'll talk about it. But at first, this is what you need to do. And then you need to give it a name. So let's call this dimensions. And we go create. And what it's actually going to do is it's going to create a DAX table in the background. Now that DAX table is, again, I'm being hampered by Zoom here, but what did I call it? Dimensions. So this is what the table looks like. If you were to actually click on the table, you would see the DAX definition that was made by the table, and it uses a, let me make that a bit bigger, you can see it. It uses a new function, well, relatively new function in DAX called name of. That name of field is basically the secret sauce behind what makes these field parameters work. But that is essentially all that happens. That in total is the field parameters. That's what we've got. But what's you may have seen, sorry, on the dialog box while I was creating it, it gave me an option to add a slice or not. So it automatically added a slice to the page for me. So what that does then is it gives me this ability to now make my graph a little bit flexible. So let's take a little graph here, and let's say I want to put in a bar chart, something very simple, and I'm going to put a measure on that bar chart. So if I look at my metrics table, not the right one. If I look over here, let's say average rating, and I'm going to put that on there. And then what I'm now going to use is, instead of putting on a column that I'm going to use as a dimension, I'm going to choose the column from my new field parameter. So I'm going to go down to this dimensions table over here, and I am going to pick the one that looks like that. And when I drag it on there, it now is slicing, but I can't really see what it's slicing by. And the reason for that is because I haven't really, oh, sorry, I can see, it tells me average rating by category. Now, weirdly enough, nothing is selected in my slicer. So why is it choosing category? Well, these parameters always choose one value. They will always choose one value. And if you don't select something, it will pick the first one on your list. So that's what's actually going on there. But what I like to do is I like to make a slicer and make it a single select slicer so that it actually shows you which one is selected all the time. But if you haven't seen this before, you're going to be like, what? When you now change this, the value of this slicer, you actually see your entire graph changes to whatever it is that you've selected. And not only that, the title even changes. So only because I haven't physically gone and set a title to something else. But for now, it automatically auto-adjusts the title. So now I've got one graph with a lot more space, and it's very easy for me to still see all those different combinations of things that I wanted to see, but I can see more values. I've got more space. It's wider, so I can see the differences better. It adds a lot of flexibility and quality to the work I'm doing. Okay, so that's the real basis of field parameters. But when I was talking earlier, I said there are two things you can do. You can either do dimensions or you can do measures. So what would we want to do with measures? Well, let's say, okay, it's really interesting right now to see the average ratings by category, but I have no idea of how many games category, or how many people actually play these categories, or whether I want to see maybe a category by something else. So let's add another field parameter, and we're going to do this very quickly. I'm not going to go through too much example, but new parameter fields. And you'll see that this time I'm going to say, let's call this, I don't know what I have already. I've already got two fields parameters. I've got one called measure. So let's call this, just to make it easy, variable measures. Okay, and then I can go and take a couple of, I can go and choose a couple of measures from my model wherever they are. So let's say number of ratings, average rating, and surely there's something else somewhere. There you go, number of games. Okay, cool. So let's say number of games is going to be our number one thing. So move it to top. Then number of ratings, and then average rating. Okay, so now we're going to create another field parameter here. And it should also add us to my report quickly. Come on. Okay, so here we've got our variable measures. And now all we do is we go to this graph and we take the, we replace the value that we currently have with the metric from our variable measures field parameter. And now, okay. Now, because this is a clustered chart, it tried to add all of them. So when we use field parameters as a dimension, you can only add one at a time. But if you use field parameters as measures, it will actually try and deal with all of them at once. But it does try and put them on one axis, which obviously is a bit difficult when you've got 6 million and an average rating of 7.2. So let's rather see what happens if I just do them. So there I go. Here I've got obviously the number of games by category, number of ratings by category, number of ratings by designer. And there you have this really, really flexible single graph, two slices, and now you can make, well, essentially 12 combinations of graphs from that by choosing those two slices. And what that allowed me to do in the example I was talking about earlier was it essentially allowed me to move from that original picture let's just have a look at where we were. Okay, so I'm assuming you all remember what that looked like before. So it's really going slowly, maybe because I haven't opened it in 4 months. 19 million, something like that. It's got a name. Yeah. 18.96 million records in my data set. So essentially, it's geek. You can get every single rating that's ever happened on a board game. Unfortunately, weirdly enough, they don't give you a date on the thing, so you can't build any sort of time stuff. You've just got the ratings of which games are rated. But so that exact same area of space that I had earlier, where I had my 8 charts, and they were, and you couldn't really tell the difference on that. I now have 2 slices and 1 chart, and I don't only have 8 options anymore. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by 2. I've got 14 options. So it's significantly more flexible. It's significantly more usable, and it also is also good for performance, because for those of us who've had to deal with performance problems in Power BI, you have the more sent at once to your source, and the slower your model actually. In this case, by doing this, basically improving on all fronts. It's flexibility, it looks better, and it's better for performance. It's a win-win situation, for your design. Okay, so there's a couple of, let's see if this does funny things yet, or if I can't remember. Oh no, okay. So those are basically the 2 things you can use field parameters. Benefits, I've kind of mentioned them in terms of all the different things that it improves. Now is, well, what more can you do to make it? Is there anything like you can do it up even better? So let's go back to the place where I was playing. If I can just get rid of Zoom bar again. Sorry. Why isn't it? So if I go back to this random little page that I created, let's go into our model again. In particular, I'm going to go into our dimensions. And if we look at what it does, basically there are 3 fields in this table that were created. And really all they are is, what was the name? What is the name that I want to appear on the slicer? What is it using as its source? And what is the order? Those are the 3 things that it gives us. So if you want to change any of those things, remember when I said you can't go back into the GUI, you can come here and say, change this to board game type or something different. And if you go there, it should fix it in the slicer very shortly. There it is. And now it'll do that, and it still changes everywhere as I use it. So that's the first thing. Very simple. You need to go. Obviously, if you need to reorder it, you can change the ordering and do that yourself. But some of the other things I like to try are, let's say, something like this. So what I want here now, the first thing is, let me add some colors. So let's go, when I have that category, I want it to be red. When I have that category, I want it to be orange. When I have this one, I want it to be blue. And when I have this one, I want it to be green. Oh, it's very exciting. And then what we can do now, it comes in here. It's added my field. You can see that over there we've got something called value 4. You can obviously rename this color. You can go there. Power BI doesn't like color with a U in it, but it works. And then you can go to this graph and say, actually, what I now want to do is I want to just do some conditional formatting. I want to go here to bars, colors, choose a color based on field value. What field should I base it on? Dimensions, color. And then obviously you have to add a summarization. So it doesn't matter what you do because it will always keep it to 1. So first is fine, min is fine, max is fine. And as you do that, hey, look how cool that is. You play around. So there's some conditional formatting that you can play around with. You can basically conditionally format anything you want. You want to change font sizes. You want to change font colors. You want to change whether you have line thicknesses, anything, like literally anything you want. So you could make these graphs that basically change entire look and feel. It was I wanted to show. Oh, let's say, okay, another example, when I go in here, let's add one more column to this thing here. Let's say here, add in some random numbers, 10, 30. Just got to remember how I actually did this now. 5, okay. Add that, I'm going to add in 4 values, 1 to each. The only thing is, obviously, you have to keep your table inconsistent. So you always have to have the same number of columns in each one. Otherwise, you will break everything. I'm going to call that filter size. And then, I don't remember how I got this right. Go into your visual. Again. Go into your visual. You can say, I want to use filtering. I want to do a oopsie, sorry, filters on the visual. I want to add a data field here. Oh, sorry, so filter size. Sorry, what am I doing? Let's try this again. So I want to go filter on my dimension. So I've got to add the same field that I did here. I need to use top N. So no, how do I do this? Wait. Specify the N value. No, it doesn't. Yeah, I just want to. Can you put a measure in there? No, I don't think you can.
Yeah, you have it. It has to be top in by sales.
Yes, but I want a variable N. That's what I've just got to try and remember how I did it. I did it. I made it work.
I use a measure and put the filter in.
Yeah.
So then
So yes. That's exactly how you have to. Sorry, that is right. So you have to create. You can make it work by passing that and making it work. So there's all kinds of fun little things you can play around with and make your field parameters do report as flexible as you want. You know, if you want to change, you want to change one graph to show top 20, next graph to show top 10. You want to change colors. You want it to be able to people to be flexible. It's quite a useful tool, I think. I don't see a lot of people using it, but I think it's a very, very useful in Power BI. And I think a lot of business cases where it makes a lot of sense. It does allow you to, on a totally different scale. Remember when I initially showed you the graph with the measures, I got multiple measures because it was a clustered column chart. So if I use a table instead, or a matrix or whatever, and I put my dimension on here, so it'll slice by dimension, and then I go here to variable measures, and I put my variable measure on as that. I do need to slice. Can have multiple fields, so it will allow you to use that. So that's a complicated table. Have this on our slicer and choose one of them, and you can see that it immediately. I've just added one field to my the dimension, and then I've added the measures. So I've only added 2 fields to this table, and yet it's got 4 columns because it's actually displaying each of the measures as a different as a different column in the table. So if you've got something like this where you want 5 or 6 tables to have lots of the measures in the same order, possibly formatted in the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You could do exactly that by setting up a field parameters group with measures and adding that to your table or to your matrix. Yeah, that's my 20. Right.
Yeah, but you've got more time.
Okay, well, anyway, fine. So that's a brief introduction. Does anyone have any questions, anything they'd like to try? Have all of you seen this before? Sorry, is this new to?
No, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
When did this update come in?
About 6 months ago? Maybe even a,
In May now, so it would have been August, September, somewhere around
okay,
there.
8 months ago, something around there. Yeah, it's been there for a while. So it's very cool. I like it's a really useful feature. And
Top saver, yeah.
yeah, no.
So if you put it in a matrix, you can multi-select the dimensions. So, but you've got to always choose it in that sequence. So if you want year first and then month,
You must have it like a.
then month. Otherwise, it'll go into
It can be quite difficult. You almost want to be all yourself where you're putting it. Yeah, I mean, it does behave differently on every visual type, depending on like what it is. So if you, as you say, if you put a matrix, it'll try and put the first category on your rows, the second category on your columns, and then everything else will go on your rows. Is that not? Always on rows. Oh, okay.
I'll do a single select on my measures.
Yeah.
So that in your visual, you're seeing only sales or only quantity.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
This thing. Year by customer, year by product, or year by month.
I got
And
you.
then they can change it around. They can go customer
By month. Yes. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Yes.
Customer by year. You know.
So for those of you who are maybe not. Because you put your dimension on the rows, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so if you put your dimensions on the rows, it will, and then you put your variable measures on your columns. Why is it not showing anything?
Yeah, you've got one select, but also the default is always to not do the plus and minus story. You know, on the expand collapse on rows. You've got to go to row headers plus.
Yeah, sure. So there you go. So now if you go to, now you're saying, because I don't, why is my visuals not showing? I mean, why are my measures not showing on the columns? No, it had to be not on columns.
Okay.
Sorry. So if you I've done it. Sorry. So what Sven was saying is here you can choose to go, okay, category by designer. So you can drill down from adventure into all the people who created adventure games. But if you want to do it a different way, you take the category off and now you go designer only. And then when it comes back, you can go designer by category. And now you've got it the other way around. So now you go into the designer first and then you get the category. Again, that's also, I mean, that's every person wants to see it different. Everyone has a different business requirement for understanding data. So it's in Excel, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it didn't used to, and it does now, which is nice. So yeah, that's. Anyone else have questions? Anything else?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes.
I know that when you publish these kinds of reports, to the service, it kind of remembers the state for each user. So I'm curious if one user always likes it category and then by designer, if they log out or just close a tab and open it again, will it still be category and designer for them?
You ask an intriguing question
We
to
should
which
test
I
that.
don't know the answer. Oh. No?
Now it's showing Stefan on the screen.
Ooh.
Were you trying to present?
I don't know what happened. Didn't matter.
Stop your share.
I didn't stop my share. I have a feeling it lost me because it says connecting here.
Yeah, you might have been kicked off the guest Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Unless there's
just
anything
big
else.
me.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. You guys ready for the quiz question?
I don't think the users can hear you. The guys online can hear you yet.
Right. Are you guys ready for the quiz question? Wow, that's loud. Okay. Just as a reminder, the quiz question, the prize is an Enterprise DNA training subscription, training video subscription. It's worth $500. They do request that if you win the prize, that you are active and that you use the content and you participate on their online platform. So if it is that you feel that you are too busy in the next few months, don't put yourself forward for this prize. If you are keen to learn more about Power BI and you have the time, then put yourself forward. Fastest fingers first. I've typed it up already. I'm just going to hit send on it. And then Nikhil, if you could just monitor the chat. I've typed it. I'm just going to hit send as soon as, yeah. So, okay. So the online people, Nikhil is going to watch to see, I've got to tell you the answer quickly. He's going to watch to see who answers first. And if he's fastest versus me looking in the room, we'll choose the winner that way. Okay. Hey, don't cheat. Oh, no, okay. Okay. All right. So, Nikhil, as soon as someone gives you the answer, you shout. Otherwise, I'll look in the room. You guys ready? Oh, my screen is flickering. Wow. No, I did this earlier as well. I don't know. Okay, you guys ready? And go. Okay, so what is the name of the DAX function used to create the table for a field parameter? And James said it's called secret source. Does anyone have an answer? Nolo. Okay, what's it? Name of is the correct answer. Well done, Nolo. Lechlo Nolo, if I can pronounce it correctly. He works with me, actually. So well done. I didn't give him that answer in advance, I promise. Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. Now, someone else who works with me is who. So he's recorded the news. I'm just going to turn the microphone off and hit play on that. Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Power BI user group for the 25th of May 2023. This is the news and updates section. Taking you through what we'll be looking at in today's news and updates. The agenda for today is as follows. We've got introductions, we've got news, which has quite a few topics that we'll be looking at. Starting from the top, we'll start with the Microsoft Fabric launch event for May. That's happening between the 24th and the 25th. We'll also be looking at the Power BI reports integration with OneDrive and SharePoint, which is a preview feature that is out in May. We'll also be looking at admin monitoring for tenant admins. And then moving on to Microsoft named a leader in 2023 Gartner Magic Quadrant for Analytics and BI platforms. And then wrapping off the news sections will be edit your data model in the Power BI Service, which is a preview feature that came out in April. Looking at the update section, we'll be starting off with a deep dive into the new dynamic format strings for measures. That was an update that came out in the April update of the Power BI updates. And then we'll be looking at the on-object interaction, which is a preview feature that came out as part of the March Power BI update. And then ending off the update section with the conditional formatting based on string fields, which came out in February. And then lastly, we'll be looking at the useful links, which basically covers the sources of where our information has been sourced from. All right, so starting with the first item on the agenda, which was the introduction. For those of you that don't already know me, my name is Zungu, and I am a tech lead for BI and data platforms at Zeta Analytics. And you can also find my email address for those of you who are interested in getting in touch with me. All right, moving along, my next slide is actually a video. So I'd like to just take a few moments for you guys to get introduced to the Microsoft Fabric, which is a new platform that Microsoft is basically launching in the Microsoft Build 2023 summit that they're actually having. And in that summit, they'll be talking a lot about this new Fabric way of work, which is now going to integrate a lot of the data tools that we've worked with, such as Power BI, Data Factory, Synapse Analytics, and so forth. So if you don't mind, I'll just press play on the video here, and hopefully the sound does come through.
Introducing Microsoft Fabric, a unified data analytics platform. One product, one experience, one architecture, one business model. Unified data is stored in one lake, a SaaS data lake for the entire organization. Data is integrated and stored in an open format, allowing one copy to be used to train machine learning models, visualize data, and run SQL queries on the lake and data warehouse. A unified experience brings together all the tools data professionals need: pipelines for orchestrating data movement, experiments for training machine learning models, semantic models for defining key metrics, and much more. And for business users, Fabric brings together data for collaborating and doing ad hoc analysis in Microsoft 365. Unified governance, security, and compliance is built in for all your data. And with Copilot from Microsoft Fabric, AI helps everyone be more productive. Whether it's writing SQL statements, building reports, or setting up automations based on triggers. All your data, all your teams, all in one place. This is Microsoft Fabric.
All right, so that was talking about Microsoft Fabric, which is a new platform that Microsoft has launched, which integrates a lot of the data tools we've been working with, and also with some machine learning and AI capabilities. So yeah, definitely Microsoft has been hard at work, and I can't wait to actually play with this platform and see what it can do. It definitely does look like it will change the way in which we've worked with Microsoft products such as Power BI and SQL and so forth. And now we will have this integrated platform which will take it to the next level. So I'm excited to see what comes from there.
Introducing.
Oops, sorry about that. So next, in terms of our news and updates, we will be then looking now at the Power BI reporting integration with OneDrive and SharePoint. And what this is a preview feature that now allows you to open your Power BI reports directly from OneDrive or SharePoint, OneDrive for Business or SharePoint, and be able to actually preview your report on the browser, as opposed to how we have been working with it, where if you have a report on either SharePoint or OneDrive, you would have to download it and open it with Microsoft Power BI Desktop. So now there's the capability that allows you to actually view the report on the web view if you so wish. Okay. Next on the news, we've got edit your data model in the Power BI service. So again, there's been a lot of work that the Microsoft team has been putting into making, the experience that we get from Power BI Desktop similar to the experience that the Power BI service has. So now with this edit your data model in the Power BI service, you also now have a preview feature that enables you to edit the data model inside of Power BI service, as opposed to how we used to do it before, whether you would download the report or you would use another tool to actually push the changes to your model. Now you actually can view your model on the service and do changes to it directly from the service without needing to download the model. There are some behaviors to note in terms of some of the limitations. One of which is in terms of the experience that you would be getting with the service, the data model changes that you'll be making will be automatically saved, and there is no undo. So in terms of the changes that you'll be making, that's just one of the behaviors that you need to be aware of, that it will be automatically saving changes as you make changes to the model, and there is no way to go back to those. There are also some of those behavioral notes to go through here. one of which is also a user must have a write and build dataset permissions in order to be able to open and edit the corresponding data model in the service. So I won't read this line for line, but I mean, some of these you can just have a look at and just see what the limitations are for you before you're using this. Okay. Next on the news, we've got admin monitoring for tenant admins. And I like this one because it has taken the report that we've had, which was that usage report that you get from the Power BI admin portal that basically shows you, how many people have accessed your report in a particular time frame. And they've basically built on top of that, allowing some additional features to actually be integrated into this. And now you can understand in terms of who's doing what in the report, who's publishing which data sets, who's using those data sets, who's endorsing those data sets and so forth. And you'll also be able to track your tenant usage and adoption growth, how many people at a given interval of time are using your reports, what are they accessing, how long are they staying on a report, and so forth. And then lastly, it's basically the support for audit and ensuring compliance. Again, there's a big drive that's taking place with Microsoft in ensuring that, we've got proper governance features that enable us to take charge of security and privacy and everything related to governance. And that's also been now adopted as part of this new usage analytics report. So that's also one of the changes that I'm excited about and looking forward to what we can get out of it. All right, and then the next is the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 2023. This came out in April, where Microsoft has been announced for the 16th consecutive year, has been positioned as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And for the 5th consecutive year in a row, they've been positioned to the far right of the quadrant of leader and visionary, which basically means they've positioned ahead of their competitor in terms of their ability to execute and completeness of vision. So that's just the update from Gartner 2023. And then moving to the updates section, starting with the latest updates that we had as of the time of the recording of these new sessions. We had not yet received a May update. So the latest update as at this point was up to April. The first topic there is the new dynamic format string for measures, which now allows you to basically do a dynamic format string for your data points. So like, for instance, if you think about someone who might be maybe reporting on different currencies, if you've ever had to do that work before, you would know that you'd have to, go through the trouble of setting up some tables in the back end with different format strings, and then you would refer to those format strings either through DEX measures, where you'd have to write a measure that has a switch function going to point into where the file is living with the different currencies, and then switch to different currency formats depending on what you are looking at or what you're selecting on. So now they've made that experience much more simpler in terms of bringing dynamic formatting as one of the format functions that you get inside of the ribbon, where you would normally go and select whether you'd use a whole number, a percentage, a decimal, and so forth. They've now got an option there that says dynamic, which now allows you to actually have that dynamic string and format it inside of the formula bar that comes up there. And you basically have a drop-down function that enables you to select either between the DEX function that you want to format, or if you want to format the format string through this drop-down, which is now set on format. And you can give it the specific formats that it would switch between depending on the selections made. Since this is a preview feature, just remember that you need to go and enable this in the preview features under the dynamic format string for measures. Next on the list is an update for on-object interaction, another preview feature that came out in March. This one now allows you to basically take all the functions that you used to have in the filter pane when it comes to editing your visuals and bringing it directly to the visual that you want to edit. So now you don't need to actually go to the format pane and find the different options. You can just find those options within the visual that you're using in Power BI, whether you want to edit the title of the visual or you want to edit some of the colors or the behaviors of that visual. All that functionality has now been brought into the object itself so that you find everything you need on that object without moving between too many panes. Next on the updates, which comes from the February update, is the conditional formatting based on string fields. Now, conditional formatting has been out for quite some time now. We've had it pretty much since the days of Power BI launching, but now they've allowed string formatting to also be part of it. So you no longer need to just use numeric fields, but you can provide it with string fields that it would format based on. Do be aware that this is also case sensitive and it's specific to how you write out the text that it needs to look out for. So if you've used caps, then the text that it's going to look for, it will be case sensitive and it has to be specifically the way you wrote it. So it has to be an exact match in order for the formatting to be applied. So that's just one of the things to be aware of there. All right, and then lastly, we will be just looking at some of the useful links. This is the sources of where we got our information from. So you can basically just go through these and see there are also additional content in terms of what was covered. We just picked out what were the highlights for the news and updates, but you will find in terms of some of these articles, there's a lot more that they talk about. So do have a look at that and just see what you can find in terms of what they've released for those news and updates. And that brings us to the end of our news section. Thank you all for listening in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the user group further. Cheers.
Nice. Thank you, Sia. Right, I'm back on my screen again now. We're just moving to the next one, which is announcements, which is very quick. And then after that, we'll move to the Datamart part. Just in terms of the announcements, this literally came out yesterday. You heard Sia talking about the new Microsoft Fabric, which is a new platform and so on. But over and above that, obviously, Microsoft's been planning this for a while. They announced yesterday, I got an email to say, we're no longer PUG, which is the Power BI user group. We are now FUG, which is the Fabric user group. Anyway, I've got a call with all the other leaders next week, Tuesday. I will find out more about it. But PUG is now FUG, okay? I thought that was quite funny. But anyway, okay, so that's just a quick announcement. And obviously there's a lot, Sia just touched on it in the news, and you've got to just try it out and see. There's licensing implications. There's all sorts of things. James is telling me you've been trying it today. Very buggy, but you know, it's very, very brand new stuff. Okay, cool. So then that just leaves us with the Datamart part. We've only got 5 minutes left because we want to run between 5 and 6. Obviously, anyone who wants to stay on longer can do so. We'll just continue on until the discussion's finished. Obviously, if you've got to drop off, that's no problem at all. So, in fact, maybe in case people do drop off, let me just run down, just sort of close it off and give all the thank yous, and then we'll do the Datamart. So, firstly, thank you to Intellect for hosting us here at their wonderful venue and for providing the pizzas. Very kind of you, as always. Thank you to Rian for co-organizing. Thank you for Nikhil for sorting out the online story. Thank you to Sia for the news. And big thank you to James for his presentation. And of course, thank you to all of the attendees online and in person. All right, excellent. So in terms of the Datamart story, I do have a Datamart environment available if we need to go there. How many of you attended the March event where we started this conversation? So yeah, Ezra and I, and then online, if you can just put your hands up there. I'm asking because I want to know how much recap we need to do, okay? All right, so online, anyone just want to put the thumbs up? Okay, so Lesejo was there. Okay, so anyway, even if 2 or 3 more people, it's probably less than half were here in March. So remember, this is the practical part, the collaboration part. So the hope was that people have tried Datamarts and are going to give feedback, okay? Now in March, I gave feedback, 1 or 2 other guys gave feedback, having used it only late last year when it was very new and quite buggy. So that's why we thought of doing a follow-up that said, okay, none of the 3 of us who had tried it recently. So we thought, well, let's try it more recently to see if some of the bugs had been ironed out. So I'm curious to know if anyone has tried it recently. I did only this morning for today. Okay. And the answer there is, well, in fact, maybe before I give it, maybe I'll just do the recap again. So what is a Datamart? And basically, when do you use it? And I would like to find out the answer for when do you use it, because you'll see why I've got a different view on it. But anyway, Datamart is supposed to be a couple of things in one. Okay, so it has it gets data into the Datamart using data flows. Okay, it's SQL storage, so it stores the data. Okay, and that's one of the features that I really like. It's basically cheap storage. In fact, it's free storage. And then it's supposed to also be a semantic model on top of all of that. Now, semantic model is a fancy name for you know, your measures, your relationships, all the data modeling aspects, especially your friendly names for your end users. It's the thing that makes your model friendly for end users, okay? Which means in the Datamart, you can go and create measures and relationships and all that type of story, okay? Now, that's the part that I'd tried and found it to be very slow and clunky, okay? And so today when I tried again, it was definitely much faster, so that's a good thing. But I admit, I can't yet see where I would use it, okay? Now, by the way, this new Microsoft Fabric is, I suppose, a big version of that, because it's exactly the same principle. It's got ingestion through Data Factory. It's got storage through the Data Lake story. And then it's got the data modeling capability with various tools. And then you can output your reporting using Power BI. Okay, so it's basically, I think, a bigger version of this, okay? But so far, we've only ever used it for storage, SQL storage, and then we connect to it as if it was a table, but it's in the cloud instead of on the client's premises, or all that sort of stuff. But we could just as easily have used a data flow for that as well. So then this whole data modeling aspect is, you create your measures and do all that sort of stuff, and it's meant for people to connect to that data model and create their own Power BI reports. But we all know that we can do that very easily by publishing a Power BI master model. That's obviously just a Mickey Mouse name, but a data set. And then others connect to it through a Power BI data set connection, and they've got self-service, and they do it. So the measures are there, the data is there. It's a model that other people are using, which is precisely what the Datamart is. So that's why I say I'm not sure when to use it. And that's one of the reasons why we made this topic, because we wanted to see if other people had tried it and thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to use it. So anyway, any thoughts, any comments? Have any of you tried it recently? Yes?
See, yeah, I'm a qualified accountant.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, just hit the, yeah.
Hi, John's the name.
Yeah.
So I come from an accounting background, okay? So high level, so I'm a top dog. The biggest challenge we have is, this information is available, but the user base is still struggling to take this data and make sense of it. And I'm strongly coming to the conclusion that we develop the reports and we just push them downwards. Does that make sense?
Sorry, you as the finance person?
The finance person, yeah.
Creating the reports, your financial, your
So we ask the guys what they want. It's
Yeah.
quicker, we just do it and send it down.
Okay, so
Rather than a self-service model, okay? Then the self-service will still remain basically Excel driven. It's still the best medium for the lower end users to explore if they want any additional information, any additional call it insights or views on their data.
So my experience is typically the finance crowd, they do like their data, their reports, and then if they ever want to explore it, they're very comfortable in Excel, and so they want it there. But the move is definitely moving to more visual and more interactive, especially if, finance people are normally very data literate. They're comfortable with rows and columns of numbers, whereas other people they want to see the trends and the visuals and that type of stuff, in which case Excel isn't really there. Power BI is far more interactive, okay? And then you can go and create all those reports for them, and then they say, but actually we want it slightly differently, which obviously where field parameters comes in, that allows them to change that a bit. But if they're a bit more experienced and they want to create their own reports, then it's self-service, okay? And that's definitely where it's all moving to, but you've got to have the master model to provide a safe environment for novices or experienced people to create their own stuff. And I don't think the Datamart is that thing, even though that's what they're saying it is. It's meant for a big organization that has an IT department, but you are in the finance team, okay? And you guys have some skills, but you're not hardcore developers, but you can easily bring data in, you can easily do some data modeling, and then you can easily build some reports, and it's all there for your department in this big corporate. But then you could, I think, easier do it in Power BI file, publish that as your master model, and then everyone can do self-service off that.
I agree.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Now, anyway, I mean, so thanks for that, John. Anyone else tried it out and have any feedback on this? Nothing in the chat. Okay. All right. Well, look, it was an attempt to try and get feedback from the market, from the user base. Okay. And the answer there is no one is using it. So now I'm certain Microsoft has been thinking about Fabric for a long time, including before Datamarts came about, and they've been around a year or a little bit longer. So it's not like, oops, Datamarts not working. Let's create Fabric. I think Fabric is just a bigger version of that, more enterprise, more robust, more this, more that, more well, Datamarts is a premium feature, but it's you don't pay extra for it. Whereas Fabric, I'm trying to get the licensing stuff.
Fabric would be part of it.
Yeah, it was part of it, but they're different SKUs now, and it includes Synapse, and Synapse was always an extra fee.
Doesn't.
Okay.
It's all the features of Synapse, right?
Yeah.
But the license. Okay. So licensing wise, it's going to be, but the idea is it's these F units, right? So
Yes.
Fabric units. You start at an F2, which is a quarter of a
tiny
core.
little one. Yeah.
It's nothing, right? But the parity is 64F is the same as a P1.
Yeah.
So then you can do those sort of, so if you own a P1, you're going to get those Fabric units and you'll get them, or you can purchase them through Azure, exactly like you did Power BI embedded. And then there'll be some limited thing through PPU apparently, but it won't be the full thing, right? But there's multiple ways to purchase it.
Yeah.
It is a capacity-based thing.
There are some asterisks on that list that says unless you're the F64, which is the P1, then you need pro licenses and this and that and whatever.
Well, so what it
and,
is remember, because it's the parity point, if you take a F32, you don't get the free user licenses. So that's why you'd want to go to the F64, so you've got your free.
At double the price.
Well, it's a double
No,
price,
well,
but it's the same as a P1 essentially, right? But it's actually, it doesn't look like the price is actually the same as P1, although that's what we were told originally.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yes, the idea is you need an F64 to get.
I was reading about that price parity. I was reading about the difference in prices because a couple of people on Twitter have shown up and gone like, but this is not the same price. But it's pay-as-you-go pricing is not the same as annual and that kind of pricing, and it seems like they've only got pay-as-you-go pricing up at the moment, whereas with premium, it's all committed. I think it's a reserve for a year.
Well, it's a year
Monthly pay fee, but
You're not allowed to. Yeah, I think it's a year that you have to commit for.
You pay monthly, but it's an annual commitment.
Yes, yeah. So I think that's why the difference in the parity, they've only got a month-to-month fee at the moment, which is double the price of the.
Is it really?
It's exactly double the price of the normal service. So
we do embedded capacity, and so I tried to go and check what the Fabric version on the Azure is, the F SKUs are today, and it's not available in our tenant. So there's no pricing yet.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but Fabric is going to another level. It's, I mean, we're talking about serious data science capability.
Yeah. Oh, completely. It literally is. It's the big enterprise version. It's trying to put multiple products together in one wrapper. It's a big offering that they're obviously just launching now, and we're going to see where it goes. But it does make your mind spin a bit to try and figure out where it fits in and when you would use it and how you would use it and how much it cost.
It's going one way. It's serious data science. So the user needs to move to a completely predictive statistical type of thinking. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to take your standard reports and bring another level of sophistication.
Yeah, that's including the whole Copilot story, the generative AI part.
So they're running, I don't know, 10 miles ahead of the user base, and the guys that will be able to take advantage are guys that have a good understanding of statistics.
Yeah.
is that it's actually a competitor to Databricks, right? Because the problem is Databricks has all of that stuff, and Power BI might be new to some, but it's data engineering, it's standard data engineering. We've been able to do everything in Synapse for years. So it's just new to this market, but all those concepts have existed, you know, for a while, right?
Well, I mean, guys with R and Python, you know, so it's going to take away all of those experts, okay? Because I think Microsoft's trying to democratize the user base to bring this data science capability.
Yeah. But it doesn't. It just brings them to a new tool. It brings them into the same tool you use. Whereas they've always had those tools. They've just been using Databricks and this and that.
I agree.
Now they're just going to be on the same
I
platform.
agree. No, there's nothing new. It's easier to use.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. So we have actually moved away from Datamarts and moved to Fabric, which is a good thing. If there are other comments or suggestions or questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we can wrap up, but there's no rush. Yeah.
No more Datamart.
No, there is still a Datamart. I still just haven't figured out where it fits in the whole system. That's all.
You would have noticed that there wasn't a hell of a lot of change in Datamarts for months, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not getting the traction they were hoping for.
Yeah.
They decide to change the name and
Well-
they add some functionality.
Talking about changing things, I mean, obviously in anticipation of Fabric, I don't know if you've been into your Power BI service and the workspaces have changed and the tenant settings layout has changed and all the icons have changed. And there's a new thing called domains. Okay, so that's another way to just try and separate your different departments into different areas. In fact, I meant to say that earlier. The data mart is supposed to be for the finance team. Well, a domain is meant to be a smaller version of your main tenant for the finance team or the sales team. So in a way, they're trying to achieve the same thing there. And maybe they are going to basically terminate data marts. Who knows? But I mean, the concept of a data mart has been out there forever. It's just this functionality that Power BI brought out that no one seems to be using.
From my reading, because I never worked with Datamart.
Yeah.
From my reading, my understanding was that Datamart basically creating a storage for a departmental, for that to be just to work faster.
It's supposed to be storage and semantic model, but I've only used it for storage, and that works well. Well, it didn't work well in the beginning. The ingestion part was buggy, but that they've sorted out. But the data modeling piece is the piece I still can't see why I would do it there.
The whole idea of Datamart is all the relationships is built in the model, so the user can just bring the fields in and work with it.
But you can do that in a Power BI master model that's published, and other people can then use it that way. And it's much quicker to create measures and using tabular editor and third-party tools and copy and paste and import them in a data mart. You literally have to go one measure at a time, create. Now, if it's only 5 measures, that's no problem. But if there's 100 or 200 and you've got a significant model like that, it's just a waste of time. You'd never do it. If you can import your data model, that does change things, but maybe that's still to come.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the other thing is, remember, it has the SQL endpoint. The idea is that you can bring other to it. So you could bring your SSRS reports that were built on SQL statements, right? You could bring those to that Power BI environment. You could bring other things. I mean, it's been used by Fabric.
Yeah.
And it's serverless for people who are in Azure, but it gives you options, because there will be some corporate client that spends $500 million a year on Power BI licenses and says, but I can't deal with this edge case. And when you're big, they make sure that you can deal with that edge case, right? But we don't necessarily see the value in it.
Okay.
I mean, just one thing I did do with, but because you got that SQL endpoint, I had some windowing function I couldn't really do nicely in Power Query.
Okay.
I just did that in T-SQL. So I loaded everything. It was kind of funny. I had to get it out. So I actually loaded it from another Power BI model into the SQL, and then it works, right?
Okay.
But it was a shitty workaround, a stupid problem.
But yeah, that's sometimes you got to be creative.
But sometimes you get those.
Yeah.
There's things
Yeah.
that can't be solved with the tools, and there is a solution. in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, okay.
One last point from me. Remember, we're at the high level, like, we're the smart dogs, top of the food chain. The biggest challenge is still at the bottom, okay? So we mustn't run ahead of what's the expectation at the bottom. The users that are taking this information and trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's our purpose. So I'm saying there's a big gap from what we understand and what the guys down there who need these reports are trying to understand. So we must always think about them.
Yeah, well, some of us who work on it, day to day, providing solutions to clients, the main objective is to make it usable by the people who need to get the information. And that's exactly your point. Yeah.
I think the challenge is always in application that you develop.
Yes.
To train the end user to use it efficiently. Otherwise, what's the point? But it's every Power BI. You create something and you expect other people just to use it. That's the game. You have to train them.
Yeah.
And it's a step-by-step process. So, I mean, who was it, James? When you developed that dashboard, what was the revelation? Or what was the wow factor from these guys when they saw that dashboard? The case study you showed us at the beginning.
I think it's more about the functionality. They managed to get what they wanted, which was the ability to see all these different things on one report, but you got rid of all the disadvantages, because every design is a trade-off. You trade off what people want to do versus how you can make it look and work. And because people always want to do everything. and that solution, the field parameters, allowed you to do a lot more without having to trade off some of the other benefits of space, sizing, appropriate visual usage, best practice in design, that kind of thing. So that was I don't know that it was necessarily a wow factor, but it was more of there was a business problem that we solved by using it, because different users wanted to see different things on the report, and the only way we could do that was by making it customizable.
On one page?
Yeah.
So weren't you just sort of breaking that one page into many pages?
No, they didn't want that. They wanted it on the front page, like.
User wanted always to see there, and when you put too many things, basically they're not interested. They don't know what to look even.
No.
Yeah.
When you do that with the field parameter, by the way, what the field parameter is showed today, you could do it before.
Yeah, it was
It's
just
more
very complicated.
It
Yeah,
took me so long to do it. I mean, more than a year ago. But with field parameter, you see how easy it could be.
Yeah, it used to be really painful, but I think also it's about trying to maintain a quality development and following best practices and things like that without compromising on business requirements. So if you are following standards that say you can't use font sizes smaller than X, and your bars need to be at least, a 10% difference on the board needs to be at least visible, that kind of thing, you actually need to then space your visuals differently to make sure you're doing those things. And if there's always coming a compromise if people are like, I want 23 visuals on my report, but also I want you to follow best practices. It's not possible anymore. You can't do X, Y, Z. And also there's also another concept in design called cognitive load. And the more visuals and the more disparate items you have on a report, the more cognitive load you get, the less likely people are actually able to derive insights from it. So if you look at the best dashboards and the best reports, often they only have 4 to 6 visuals on them. That's kind of the sweet point for what you can, because you can quickly make mental correlations between 4 to 6 visuals. You can't do that when it's 10, 12, 17, 23 visuals. So then we go to other types of things like, I can't show you now, but for those of you who are here, you can
create also buttons to go to other pages.
Yeah.
But with the field parameters more.
Sorry, can I just interrupt for 2 seconds? I think we're going to end the event. Sorry for the guys online. For everyone who's here, which is where the conversation is happening, please continue the conversation over some pizzas, which is an incentive for people to come in to the sessions in future. But thank you everyone for joining online. We're going to end the recording as well. Have a nice evening and see you soon. Oh, by the way, I'm not here next month. It's an online meeting, but Rian and Stefan and the rest will do their thing. Yeah.
Yeah.